In today's video, I'm going to talk about averages and the problem with using just simple averages. And in this example, I'm going to talk about Shopify. So it's a popular e-commerce company that saw its sales explode during the early stages of the pandemic. You can see it went from growing at 50 to 40% up to more than 110% at its peak over the past few years. And now it's been sliding back down ever since. Now, the disadvantage of just using an average is it may not give you a good representation of how the business has been growing. Because if you've got large numbers mixed in with small numbers, it can skew that average fairly easily. For example, if I were to calculate the average for Shopify over the past 22 periods here, going back to about 2016, it's averaging a 65% growth rate based on this. But the problem is that a lot of these values haven't been anywhere near 65%. We've got 47, we've got as low as 22 recently. And so the average can really skew that very easily just because you've got some of these large numbers in there. And if you've taken a statistics course, you may be more familiar with a median calculation. And a median basically takes the middle numbers in a range to use that as maybe a more reliable figure to show what the growth rate has been, or what is a bit better indicator than just a simple average. So the median, as you can see, returns the middle numbers in a set of given numbers. So if we were to grab all this, our median is a bit lower at 60%. Now, obviously, it's still higher than some of these other growth rates, but it's a bit lower and perhaps a bit more reasonable than using a higher growth rate. You know, if we were to look back at just the past, let's say, all the way back to start of 2019, the average was 62%. And if we took the median over the same stretch, then we're looking at 48%. So as you can see, even though we're using the same range, the median comes in a bit lower than the average when you're looking at a lot of extremes. Like here you've got 22, 110, and a lot of values in the 40s. And so I'll change this back to the entire data set, and I'll show you how the median is calculated. So an easy way to calculate the median is if I were to copy these values, paste them in here, and then I'm going to sort them. Doesn't matter whether it's largest to highest or largest to smallest or smallest to highest. In the end, you're looking at the middle two numbers or the middle number, depending on how many numbers are in your set. So here I've got 22 numbers in here. So I'm looking at the 11th and 12th numbers in this sequence. So I'm going to go all the way until I get to number 11 here, which is 11 and 12, which are these two values. And the way you can check is there's 10 numbers above and 10 numbers below this range. So this is the average, or this is the middle of the range. And so if I average these two numbers, that gives me 60%, which is what this median is. Now, if I don't have an even number, like let's say I strip out this last one here, then what I'm going to do is I'll copy this again just to have a fresh data set here. In this case, now I've got, once I sort this, now I've got 21 numbers. In this case, I'll look at the 11th number in the sequence here, which is 58%. I don't need to do any averaging here because it falls right in the middle. 10 numbers above, 10 numbers below. So 58% is the median in this case. So the advantage of doing it this way is, you know, there's a bit less bias in the average. It's not skewing too far to one side or too low to one side, especially if, let's say, Shopify had a really good quarter or a really bad one. You know, the average can really skew that in either direction. But by using the median, you know, we're not really weighted too heavily to this side or to this side. We're going more towards the middle. Right, 58%. The last time it was there was September 2018. That's a bit dated, but this is still a lot closer to the 47, 45, 48% that the company was generating before the pandemic, as opposed to 64%, which is already starting to be skewed a bit higher in light of those more recent results. So that's a reason why you may want to consider calculating a median as opposed to an average when you're calculating data, especially when you've got a wide range. And the wider the range is, the more significant the difference can be between, the median and the average. Like, let's say if Shopify's average spiked back to 90%, now there's a difference between 67 and 62. If it was at 100%, still nice, 67 and 62. But let's say it went up to, say, 125%. Now we're starting to see a bit more of a difference between those numbers. So the larger your extremes, the more of a reason you have to not use an average and use a median calculation instead.